We continue down the checklist for a vision statement, and on this particular part of the checklist, we're determining the type of vision statement for your church. You have probably heard presentations of developing vision statements. You've probably heard definitions for what a vision statement is. And guess what? They're different. And guess what? Mine is not the only way. I'm taking you down a path to do a vision statement. I'm not taking you down the path to do a vision statement. I am going down a path that as we have studied countless churches, particularly beginning with Simple Church over a decade ago, as we've studied hundreds, if not thousands of churches, we are going down the path that we think is probably producing the greatest fruit in churches. But again, I don't want this to be some type of self-centered, know-it-all type of presentation where I'm saying we've got the answer. I'm simply saying, to the best of our knowledge, these are the type of vision statements that have worked well in churches. Now, let me go back, early days of my ministry, pre-Great Depression, those type of years. Let me go back to some of the formative days of my ministry. I began to write about vision statement many years ago. As a matter of fact, it was in the early 80s, 1980s to be clear, that I began to write about vision statements. And I had a definition for them, a definition that I have since abandoned, but many have continued to follow the definitions that I set forth. I said that there were basically two groups of statements. One was a mission statement, and the other was a vision statement. And here's what I said about the old mission statement. I said that it's God's plans for all churches. In other words, any church that has a mission statement should be very similar to another church's. Now I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just simply saying I dichotomized a vision statement from a mission statement. That was very broad, that it was God's plan for all churches. You could reproduce your mission statement in another church's, and another church could reproduce it in yours. It could be something like fulfilling the Great Commission and the Great Commandment. Well, that is a mission statement for all churches, and all churches should do it. But here's the issue. Does it help us with specificity and action? No. It may help us in its broad sense with our biblical purpose, but it does not get granular where we can then take action with it. And then I would come back with this statement, and I would say, but a vision statement is this: God's specific plan for a specific church at a specific time. Well, that one was too specific. It was about a specific plan at a specific church at a specific time. And you know the implications behind that? Within a few months, you had to change it because that specific time was no longer the specific time. And so it had too much specificity. One was too broad and one was too specific. And in reality, I did not like the dichotomizing of a mission statement from a vision statement because it was confusing. What's the difference in the mission? What's the difference in the vision? Well, you can get into some type of granular argument about that, but essentially, either one of them could say the same thing or something different. And so I just began to abandon that dichotomy between a mission statement and a vision statement. Now, here's another one. Some like to use a slogan as a vision statement. Here's an example: where all hurting people are welcome. That is a nice slogan. I really do like it. But is there any church that wants to say, if you're hurting, don't come here? When you say where all hurting people are welcome, I know what you're trying to communicate, that you're a church of compassion, of mercy, and grace. I get that. But how does that give direction to the church other than to be nice, to be kind, and look after people and be hospitable? So many churches use a slogan, and they call that their vision statement. One was too broad. One was too specific. One was a slogan. And then there's another one that I just call the kitchen sink vision statement. And in the kitchen sink, you throw everything in there. You satisfy the missions group, you satisfy the discipleship group, you satisfy the evangelism group, you satisfy the small groups leaders, and the list goes on and on. And you have so many components in there that all it is a compromise statement instead of a vision statement. It is too cluttered and it's too confusing. I gave you the example that when I first came to the organization I'm currently leading, Lifeway, that it was just the vision statement was far too confusing. So much so that people spent hours trying to memorize it, so in case they were called upon, they had to repeat it. Well, the number one concern of our employees was not carrying out the vision statement, it was memorizing it so they wouldn't get in trouble. Well, it was a kitchen sink statement. It had just a little bit of everybody's division, and it did begin with "as God works through us" to make it theologically correct, but it still was just not compelling, nor did it move us to action. So here's what I want to say about vision statement. There is no such thing as a magic formula vision statement. There's no one that is right and all the others are wrong. There is not one size fits all. So I'm going to tell you what we will be using when we start talking about vision statements. So what will we be using for our vision statement? Here is very much the process I want you to hear. It is this: a statement that moves members to action. A statement that moves members to action. Now, let's just kind of break this down just a little bit. It's a statement. It will be a written and verbal statement. It will be something that can be captured. It will be something that can be remembered. But also, it will have a compelling future to it. It moves members. And so to move a member means you are in this place and you're going to be in another place. It moves members. So it is not only a statement, but it's something implied, or in many cases explicit within the statement, that causes members to do something, to have action, to move forward. And that's the third point that I want to raise about this. It's not only a statement, it not only moves members, but it moves them to action. Too many vision statements are theoretical. Too many vision statements sound great, but they end at least unspokenly with these two words: so what? So what do I do with this? How do I capture this? It's nice to have the vision statement, but what do I do next with it? So hear me clearly. This is not a presentation on all the ways to do a vision statement. This is a presentation on how to do a vision statement that moves members to action. And the reason I'm doing this is not because I think I have discovered the best way. It is because we have done the research, particularly beginning with the research of Eric Geiger and me in the book Simple Church that was written well over a decade ago, that we have found that churches that have vision statements that move people to action are the type of churches that see and produce the greatest fruit. Here's one other thing that I will be sharing with you. This information, this type of statement, implies that each element of the vision statement, each part of it, almost each word of the vision statement will require accountable language. Now, if that doesn't make any sense to you, what I'm simply saying is, as you look at the vision statement, there will be an understanding of what this word means, or this word means, and what the explicit or accountable action that accompanies each of those words. If I'm not making sense now, just hang on, because my purpose in going over this to you now is just to let you know that the type of vision statement that we will be building in the process of these 10 steps, the type of vision statement is a one that moves members to action. There are a lot of other vision statements out there. There are probably a lot of good ones. But when it's all said and done, these are the types that we have seen that have produced the greatest fruit. Now, here's my theory. My theory is that many of you on the other side of this camera are ready to move and take action. You wouldn't want to know how to develop a vision statement unless you were truly action-oriented and you're ready to take some major steps. I'm going to put the pause button on you. You may be a little bit uneasy with the fact that I want you to stop and pause for a moment, but there are some things that you need to do in preparation even before you start formulating and articulating the vision statement. The first of those has to do with prayer. And if you didn't think that I would say that, then you're surprised. But I don't want you to skip the next one thinking that you're just going to go to the action items. I have seen many a vision statement fail because it was not centered upon the power of God. So when we come back and we go to the next checklist on the item, we're going to talk about how we can pray to enact a vision statement. I'll see you then.